There are definitely days when I would just totally identify with that thought and get very gloomy and bad-tempered. That does happen. I am not perfect. But I guess on the best days, yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it's just to see it. It's just to recognize one's old patterns and to have that sort of attitude of, I think it's very important to be able to have a sort of attitude of humorous indulgence, I guess, right? You know, like if you have some sort of relative in your family who always does some silly thing or always talks about some subject, you'd be like, oh yes, old Uncle Bill is doing that thing again. And I think you can take the same attitude to yourself, right? It's like, oh yes, guess what? And I was very struck by a line in a book by a therapist called Bruce Tift, who I quote in my book. He wrote this great book called Already Free. And he says somewhere that like you should, it's an interesting experiment to think about whatever your biggest emotional issue is, your biggest psychological struggle, and imagine never getting rid of it. Imagine having it to the end of your life, you know? Mm-hmm. So if you have a tendency to beat yourself up internally, as an example, just to use the example you were using, maybe that's always going to be there until you die. Okay. And then I think, well, all right, maybe I'm always going to be having those thoughts about, oh, am I being a good father or being a bad father? And then you can sort of laugh about it because it's just like, nah, it's that thing again. Instead of, I've really got to change so that I don't have these thoughts anymore, which is a recipe for disaster.